how are you repurposing your content? You mentioned the videos, but how, let's get into that a little bit more. How are you repurposing the content and what's working there and what's not?
Okay, repurposing is one of my favorite topics. I love especially training my team on it so that they can figure out which areas they can repurpose and what we should be doing each time, and how we can be thinking about our content, trying to get as much mileage out of one idea across our different devices or channels or audience segments. So that content brainstorm program that I mentioned before, content repurposing is a huge part of that, a huge section of that resource and of that program for my team. We might have, put an idea out there a couple of months ago, and everything changes so quickly that we might have a different view on it now, or we might be able to come up with a different format now because our bandwidth shifted or our resources shifted. So maybe a couple months ago we wrote a blog post, and now we should look at that and say, okay, should we elevate it? Should we now create the video? Do we now have time to put a little bit more technical language into a sales slide? How can we look at what already exists and try to do something else with it, try to evolve it, try to update it, add to it? I love the topic of it. I think that it's so important, and I think it's a huge opportunity because if you're repurposing something, that means that something already exists. So you've already put some manpower into it, some brain power into it. There's already been effort that you've already expelled there, and so you kind of owe it to yourself to look at other ways that you can just get as much momentum out of one concept or one topic. Make it as efficient as possible. I love improving efficiencies like that. I think that sometimes it's as simple as having an idea and saying, okay, what formats have we done before and what formats could we do now? Sometimes the repurposing comes in terms of audience segments. Okay, we created this topic for this particular audience segment. Well, maybe now we should repurpose it for other audience groups. Shift it a little bit there, try to go in a different route there. Look at the data behind it. Okay, which content assets are working and resonating the most, and how can we repurpose that content? And maybe there's a topic that people really like. We did one standalone blog post on it a couple months ago. Maybe we should repurpose that idea and now create a whole series around it. We've done that before as well. So bringing some data into it too can help make the repurposing even more impactful. But yeah, there's so many different directions to go when it comes to repurposing, and so many different things, because you can't do everything all at once and you can't do everything every time. So really taking that step back and thinking, okay, what exists and what can we do with it, and how can we shift this and get as much out of it as possible across all the funnel stages, all the audience groups, all the content formats. There's so many ways to do this. What's our bandwidth now, and what can we do to continue repurposing pieces and trying to keep that effectiveness and efficiency high across the board?